The Food Network has produced several of television's most enduring programs. Still, that kind of success doesn't necessarily seem to carry much weight with the executives calling the shots. During the autumn of 2025, viewers of Food Network were shocked to hear that The Kitchen would be wrapping up for good. For well over 10 years, the series featured a powerhouse lineup of celebrity chefs. Familiar faces such as Katie Lee, Sunny Anderson, Jeffrey Zakarian, Jeff Morrow, and others. With an incredible 40 seasons completed, the show had seemed destined to remain on the air indefinitely. Even with its long history of success, however, the network ultimately decided to pull the plug. According to an insider, the cancellation was tied largely to a major strategic change pushed by executives at Warner Bros. Discovery, the parent company behind Food Network. Earlier that year, the media giant revealed plans to divide the business into two separate companies, one centered on streaming platforms and another dedicated to traditional cable programming. In the middle of that corporate shakeup, The Kitchen ended up becoming one of the casualties, and it quickly became clear to fans that the series was nearing its conclusion. The announcement left both audiences and cast members devastated. In an Instagram story post, longtime co-host Katie Lee shared, "It's the end of an era. Thank you so much to all of our fans. The Kitchen was the greatest professional honor of my life, and I will be forever grateful." The series finale was broadcast on December 13th, 2025. It actually took several attempts before Restaurant Impossible was finally taken off the schedule, but this time the cancellation appears to be permanent. The show centered on chef Robert Irvine as he traveled to struggling restaurants and tried to turn their fortunes around, using a mix of industry know-how, strict guidance, and plenty of hard-edged criticism.
This is what I want to do right now.
Everything else tastes like crap.
The series originally premiered in 2011, and even though not every restaurant featured on the show managed to survive afterward, the program itself proved to be a ratings success. Its initial run lasted 13 seasons across 5 years before coming to an end in 2016. Under most circumstances, that would have marked the finish line. But in 2019, Irvine managed an unlikely comeback, reviving Restaurant Impossible for an additional 9-season stretch. That revival ultimately wrapped up in 2023, however, and Irvine has since suggested he doubts the show will return again. By that point, major changes were already underway behind the scenes at Food Network. As Irvine later explained in a tweet, "I'm old news, and although the show is a great show that helps small businesses, families, and communities, it's not a show that they believe fits into who or what they want or the younger viewers like." As viewers kept expressing their frustration across social media, Irvine acknowledged that Restaurant Impossible was one mission he ultimately wasn't able to rescue. As irritating as it may be for audiences, Food Network has a long history of quietly cycling shows in and out of its lineup. Still, while fans often struggle to understand why beloved programs disappear, the people working on those productions can be just as baffled by the decisions. That was the case in 2023, when Valerie Bertinelli's longtime series, Valerie's Home Cooking, suddenly came to an end after 8 years and 14 seasons on the network. And according to Bertinelli herself, she never received a real explanation for why it happened. Before the final season debuted, Bertinelli shared in a now-deleted Instagram post that Food Network had informed her back in the summer of 2022 that the show was being canceled. However, she said executives never offered her or her team any clear reason behind the decision. Bertinelli explained that she was every bit as puzzled as the fans watching at home. She even tried to convince network leadership to reconsider and continue the series, but the decision had already been made. Despite that disappointment, she still maintained her upbeat attitude, writing, "I have loved making this show. It was such a dream come true. Every single part of it brought me so much joy. I loved the crew. I loved everybody in production. They loved making this show for you." Halloween is usually associated with spooky monsters, candy overloads, and endless shades of orange. But in 2025, Food Network delivered a real scare of its own by making 3 fan-favorite Halloween programs disappear almost overnight. Following a pattern viewers had seen before, Outrageous Pumpkins, Halloween Cookie Challenge, and Last Bite Hotel were all quietly dropped without any formal cancellation announcement from the network. Instead, fans eventually realized something was off when none of the shows appeared on Food Network's 2025 programming lineup, almost as though the series had vanished without a trace.
I couldn't possibly know where they've gone.
But those shows definitely had their audience. Outrageous Pumpkins stayed on the air for 5 seasons, while Halloween Cookie Challenge lasted for 2. Last Bite Hotel only managed a single season, Yet host Titus Burgess left such a memorable impression that many viewers were genuinely upset they wouldn't get to hear his theatrical narration return for another year. Although Food Network never publicly addressed the cancellations, fans across the internet certainly made their feelings known. In what may have been one of Reddit's most passionately wholesome complaints, a disappointed viewer wrote, "In the current desperate times, we need our flipping happy place holiday shows. Come on, Food Network, for crying out loud." The backlash even spilled over onto other Food Network personalities, with some viewers directing their frustration at hosts who had nothing to do with the cancellations. As one fan commented, "Gotta make room for all the Guy Fieri shows. No room for what people really want to watch." The Halloween shows weren't the only casualties of the broader shakeups happening behind the scenes at Food Network. After The Kitchen and the trio of spooky season series were removed, viewers started worrying that the network's winter holiday programming might also be affected, and those concerns turned out to be well-founded. When the holiday lineup was officially released, neither Christmas Cookie Challenge nor Holiday Wars appeared on the schedule. The two series had each built strong followings over their runs, 8 seasons for one and 6 for the other, and had become seasonal staples for many longtime fans. As with the other cancellations, Food Network offered no public explanation. One former Holiday Wars competitor suggested the cuts could be tied to the same Warner Bros. Discovery restructuring that led to The Kitchen being dropped, though nothing has been confirmed. Online, fans quickly voiced their frustration, with one Reddit user writing, "Thanks Food Network for messing up our comfort shows this year." A newer series titled Sweet Empire Winter Wars did make its debut in 2025, and although it carried a concept that loosely echoed Holiday Wars, it will likely take a long time before it builds the same kind of following its predecessor enjoyed. In 1993, Food Network executives recognized Emeril Lagasse's on-screen charisma and cooking skill and brought him on as one of the network's early flagship personalities. Together, the chef and the channel hit it big with Emeril Live, a high-energy cooking program that quickly became a standout success. The series impressed audiences with its lively format, earning a Cable Ace Award in 1997 during its very first year. With a studio audience and live band, Lagasse's percussion-loving kitchen style often saw him trading kitchen tools for drumsticks between segments. "Bam!" became his signature, and viewers were fully on board. However, by 2004, viewership had begun to decline. Then, Food Network president Brooke Johnson was steering the channel toward a new era of reality-based programming, and Lagasse's traditional, performance-heavy approach no longer aligned with that direction. Johnson reportedly encouraged him to adjust his style and even offered involvement in the emerging show Iron Chef America, but the collaboration ultimately didn't work out, and tensions led to Lagasse stepping away from the network. Emeril Live ultimately taped its final Food Network episode in 2007. Chef and restaurateur Mario Batali arrived on the Food Network scene in 1996 as the energetic, orange clog-wearing host of Molto Mario. Known for his theatrical presence, Batali impressed audiences by blending bold, inventive Italian cooking with engaging storytelling, often guiding viewers and guests through a broader cultural tour of Italy alongside the food. His work in the culinary world also earned major recognition, including James Beard Awards for Best Chef of New York City in 2002 and Outstanding Chef of the Year in 2005. Despite his growing reputation, Molto Mario eventually came to an end. In 2004, the series was canceled as part of a wider wave of original Food Network programming cuts during that period. Years later, in 2008, Batali reflected on the experience in an interview with New York Magazine, stating, "The Food Network was tired of me and couldn't find a way to use my information." Even so, Batali remained a presence on programs such as Iron Chef America, and there were even discussions at Food Network about bringing Molto Mario back. However, in 2017, after multiple former female employees accused Batali of sexual misconduct, those revival plans were ultimately abandoned and never moved forward. A classically trained chef, Sara Moulton helped establish the New York Women's Culinary Alliance in 1982, worked in several restaurant kitchens, trained in France, and eventually ran the dining room at Gourmet magazine. She also built a strong behind-the-scenes television resume, supporting Julia Child on PBS and serving as a food editor for Good Morning America. In 1996, Moulton reluctantly stepped into a hosting role with Food Network's Cooking Live, which quickly became a success. The show concluded in 2002 when she moved on to launch Sara's Secrets. Over the next 4 years, that series focused on teaching time-strapped viewers simple, efficient cooking techniques and recipes, often featuring appearances from guests in the culinary world and beyond. In 2004, Sara's Secrets even received a nod in the liner notes of the Beastie Boys album To the Five Boroughs. However, Moulton also became one of the many personalities affected when Food Network shifted away from its original instructional format toward reality-based competition programming. After Sara's Secrets ended in 2006, she told Eater, "They dumped me. I was part of the old guard." In 1998, the same year he opened his first restaurant, Blue Ginger chef, restaurateur, and cookbook author Ming Tsai launched East Meets West on Food Network. For Tsai, the show's title reflected his philosophy of blending Eastern and Western culinary traditions into a cohesive style. Through the series, he enjoyed demonstrating that balance while introducing viewers to new techniques and bold, globally inspired flavors. His work on the program earned him an Emmy in 1998 for Outstanding Service Show Host. By 2003, however, as Food Network began shifting its focus, Tsai found himself less interested in the network's new direction toward competition-driven programming. In an interview with Good Food on Every Table, he explained that he left because, as he put it, Food Network became all about competition. Like Mario Batali and Sarah Moulton, Tsai eventually moved on to PBS. One of Food Network's most enduring figures, restaurateur, author, and chef, Bobby Flay rose from the French Culinary Institute to celebrity status in 1996 as the host of Grillin' and Chillin'. Over the years, he has continued to appear across multiple Food Network programs, including the long-running hit Beat Bobby Flay. Not every project, however, landed with audiences. In 2013, Flay led a reality-style series called Bobby's Dinner Battle, which followed home cooks from different U.S. cities as they competed to prepare the ideal three-course meal under tight budgets and strict time limits. In each episode, 3 teams battled it out for Flay, their fellow competitors, and a featured guest. Despite the premise, the show was short-lived, ending after just 5 episodes. In a 2013 interview with My Recipes, Flay himself acknowledged its shortcomings, saying, "I just don't think it was interesting." He added that the concept didn't quite work in practice, though he also noted it was never intended to be a long-running series. So in his view, it wasn't really a cancellation. Ace of Cakes star Duff Goldman first arrived on Food Network in 2005, showcasing the day-to-day workings of his bakery, Charm City Cakes. Over 11 seasons, audiences got an inside look at everything from elaborate custom cake creations to Goldman's interactions with clients, staff, and suppliers, offering a behind-the-scenes view of a highly creative confectionery operation. The series became a major hit, but it concluded in 2011, much to the disappointment of its large fan base. Rather than a dramatic cancellation, Goldman has described the end as a personal turning point, explaining that he simply felt it was time for a new chapter. He later relocated to Los Angeles, opened Duff's Cake Mix, and went on to develop other projects, including Sugar High, as well as working with Valerie Bertinelli on Kids Baking Championship, before stepping back for a period. He eventually returned to television in 2019 with Duff Takes the Cake, followed by the 2021 Discovery Plus series, Duff's Happy Fun Bake Time. Still, Goldman has been clear that Ace of Cakes is unlikely to return, saying it represented a very special time and place that I'm just not sure we can ever really recreate. Everyone enjoys a good on-screen romance, at least in theory, but Down Home with the Neelys didn't end up being one of those feel-good love stories. In 2008, Gina and Pat Neely, high school sweethearts who had been married for more than 2 decades, were presented as a warm, happy couple at the center of a Food Network success. Together, they shared their grilling know-how and favorite home-style dishes, all wrapped in a laid-back, family-focused atmosphere that resonated with viewers. However, in 2014, the situation behind the scenes came to a quiet end. Gina ultimately stepped away from both the show and her marriage to Pat Neely. It later emerged that the couple had actually been separated during the final years of the series, and Gina had decided she was ready to move on. In an interview with Oprah, she reflected on that period, stating,
"I never wanted to do that show. I never wanted to live my life quite out loud like that."
In an interview with People magazine, Gina shared that she had already been considering divorce even before the show launched, and described mentally cocooning herself before each taping. While Pat was deeply involved in the restaurant world and enjoyed the spotlight of television, Gina came from a banking background and never felt the same enthusiasm for being on camera. In the end, the marriage came to a close, and the couple officially divorced. In 2000, chef and author Anthony Bourdain released his breakout memoir, Kitchen Confidential. After hearing about his idea for a travel-focused follow-up project, NYU film graduate Lydia Tenaglia reached out, and soon Bourdain was in production on A Cook's Tour for Food Network. running from 2002 to 2003 across 35 episodes. The series followed him on an unfiltered global culinary adventure, ranging from Caribbean coastlines to deep excursions in Thailand. However, tensions quickly emerged over the show's direction. Food Network reportedly preferred that Bourdain keep his focus closer to home, believing ratings would improve with more US-based cooking content. That direction clashed directly with the entire premise of the series, and Bourdain ultimately refused to change course. The disagreement escalated after the network declined his proposed episode featuring culinary innovator Ferran Adrià. Bourdain went ahead and filmed it anyway, then took the finished material elsewhere. The Travel Channel embraced the concept, and in 2005 he left Food Network to launch the acclaimed series Anthony Bourdain, No Reservations. Before becoming a Food Network fixture, Paula Deen ran a catering business, opened a restaurant with her two sons called The Lady and Sons in downtown Savannah, and even self-published several cookbooks. In 2002, she launched her full-time television career with Food Network through Paula's Home Cooking, which later led to Paula's Party in 2006 and Paula's Best Dishes in 2008. For a long stretch, her shows were highly popular. Then things began to shift. In 2012, Deen publicly revealed she had been diagnosed with diabetes 3 years earlier, a revelation that drew criticism from some who saw a disconnect between her health condition and her reputation for rich, indulgent Southern cooking. A far more serious turning point came in 2013 when Deen admitted to using racial slurs. Following the controversy, Food Network and several sponsors moved quickly, announcing they would not renew her contract. Her run on the channel ended abruptly and on a deeply contentious note.
If you've never committed a sin, please pick up that rock, pick up that boulder, and hit me as hard as you can.
Before arriving on Food Network, Chef Robert Irvine built his culinary foundation in the British Royal Navy. No stranger to high-pressure environments, he joined the network in 2007 as the host of Dinner Impossible. Working with a team of sous chefs, Irvine was challenged to design and execute elaborate meals for large groups, often in unusual or remote settings. Each episode came with strict constraints on time, equipment, ingredients, and sometimes even shifting guest counts that made the tasks even more unpredictable. In 2008, however, his role on the show took an unexpected turn when Food Network asked him to address concerns about inaccuracies in his resume, including claims that he had cooked for several US presidents that could not be verified. While Dinner Impossible was not formally canceled, Irvine was removed as host and replaced by Michael Simon. After issuing apologies and clarifications, he eventually returned to the series and continued until its 8th season in 2010, when it left the air. Around the same period, he was also given a new opportunity with Restaurant Impossible, which originally ran until 2016. Following a 3-year break, Restaurant Impossible was revived in 2019, and Dinner Impossible later made its own return in 2021. 2 years after a pilot of Alton Brown's Good Eats first aired on Chicago Public Television in 1997, Food Network picked up the series. When it wrapped in 2012, the author, chef, and food science enthusiast went on to appear on Iron Chef America and The Next Iron Chef, before leaning into competition-style programming as the host of Cutthroat Kitchen in 2013. Spanning 15 seasons, the offbeat, fast-talking culinary battle show featured 4 competing chefs in each episode. With judges drawn from the culinary world, contestants were tasked with producing the best dish while surviving a series of eliminations across 3 rounds. Each player started with $25,000 and had the option to spend it in auctions on sabotage tactics designed to hinder their rivals. The last chef remaining kept whatever money they hadn't spent. After nearly 200 episodes, Cutthroat Kitchen ended in 2017. Brown had grown tired of the game show format and stepped back, looking for a break after years of high-volume production. That time away, however, seemed to reset his creative direction. Even though he told Larry King in 2014 that Good Eats would never return, the series was revived in 2019. Restaurateur and celebrity chef Aaron Sanchez first appeared on Food Network through the now largely forgotten series Melting Pot. Years later, he crossed paths with chef Chris Cosentino as a fellow competitor on The Next Iron Chef. The network seemed to enjoy their dynamic together. And in 2009, the two friends were paired up for Chefs vs. City. Hosted by Ethan Erickson, the reality competition followed Sanchez and Cosentino as they raced against 2 local chefs in different U.S. cities, completing a series of culinary and logistical challenges on their way to the finish line. Cosentino initially viewed the project as a lighthearted opportunity to mix travel, food, and competition while also promoting his restaurant alongside Sanchez. However, the final experience did not match his expectations. During a 2014 Mad Symposium talk, Cosentino later reflected on the show in stark terms, saying he disliked the pilot and felt it portrayed him unfairly, even making him come across as a bully. He also explained that he was contractually required to finish the series, and added that the eating challenges affected him so severely physically that doctors at one point feared he might have a serious illness.
Nobody can take that away. Nobody can take away that moment in my life.
He has also said that he disliked the version of himself he felt he became while chasing visibility on the network, and he stepped away as soon as he was able, even though the series performed well in the ratings. Sanchez has continued to maintain a strong presence on television, but Cosentino has largely found more satisfaction outside the spotlight, focused on cooking, mentoring emerging chefs, cycling, and even writing his own Marvel comic book projects. So the next time the idea of having a Food Network show sounds like a dream opportunity, it's worth remembering Cosentino's own warning: be careful what you wish for.